Hello, I'm Courtney, an English with Creative Writing student chatting with Dr Erin Sullivan, a senior lecturer in the Shakespeare Institute at the University of Birmingham. Thank you for joining us today, Dr Sullivan.
Great, it's nice to be with you, Courtney. Thank you.
How have you been finding lockdown? Any reading or viewing that has gotten you through it?
Oh, we've been coping okay here. We're really lucky. My husband and I are both able to continue working and work from home, but we do have our 2-year-old at home with us, which is lovely and also poses tons of challenges. So she's supposedly napping upstairs while we chat right now. And in terms of reading and viewing, well, my own research has been in a way a kind of luxury and a form of escape at the moment, with everything else that's been going on. Because I was already working on the performance of Shakespeare in the digital age, and interested really in looking at how people use different digital tools to connect with other people who are interested in Shakespeare or interested in literature and art in different ways. So I've been reading some historical studies about Shakespeare and amateur performance and participation in the 19th and early 20th century women's reading clubs in the US before women even had the vote, and the ways in which these clubs gave them an into intellectual and civic life. So that's been really interesting to me. But I have wanted to turn off from work and Shakespeare at the end of the day, and think about other things. So let's see, at the moment, my current Netflix watching, or I should say ours, my husband and I together are watching The Last Dance, which is a 10-part documentary about the Chicago Bulls and Michael Jordan and their last big season together in 1997, 1998, which I suppose I'm enjoying in large part because it gives me a good dose of 90s nostalgia. That's when I was a teenager and coming of age, and kind of remember it fondly. But also, I think it's really amazing to learn about anyone who does something marvelously well. So to see some of the clips of Michael Jordan playing, but also to hear him talk about how he did what he does, is kind of incredible.
Your office is based in our Shakespeare Institute, located in Stratford-upon-Avon. What have you missed most about that campus?
Well, I'm really lucky in that I literally live around the corner from the Shakespeare Institute in Stratford. So although I'm not going out very often at the moment, when I do go out for walks with my daughter, I almost always see it. I can see the building, and I can kind of crane over the wall a little bit to see some of the garden. And I think actually the garden is what I've missed the most. There's really beautiful flowers in the springtime, roses into the summer, and I'm sorry to have missed those this year. But actually what I love most about the garden is the way that it is a place where everyone comes and sits and talks during this time of year. So all the students, working in the library, but come out for a break and chat about what they're reading, or the shows that are on at the Royal Shakespeare Company at the moment. And as staff as well, we get out there. So just kind of that really lovely communal feeling that we have, and the way that the Shakespeare Institute is almost, it was 100 years ago, it was someone's home. And it does really still feel like that in some ways, a kind of a big family home where these kind of group of lovely, if slightly crazy people who love Shakespeare congregate to share their love with one another.
Coronavirus, COVID-19, has had a huge impact on all areas of society, and going to the theatre is something that has had to stop. Your research focuses on the use of digital innovation such as live broadcasting, which a lot of people have embraced lately. Do you think that the pandemic has had some positive impact in your area of research?
Yeah, in a strange sort of way, it has. I mean, obviously the pandemic is an awful thing, and it's had such a devastating impact on so many people's lives, and also on so many industries. And theatre is a really important part of both the UK economy, but also cultural life. It's something that the UK is known for worldwide. And it's really scary right now because people really don't know when theaters will be able to reopen, even once people say that you can, maybe in a socially distanced way. I think theater makers aren't sure when audiences are going to feel comfortable sitting in an auditorium. But it's been really inspiring to see the different ways in which theaters have tried to keep going, keep the show going on, as it were, even though we are in this really different time. So really quickly, quite a few theaters went into their back catalogs of recorded productions and started putting them online. Maybe the most famous is the National Theatre. Its NT Live series, which has been going for about a decade now, shows really high quality recordings of theater, and usually they show in cinemas, but now that that's not possible, they've been showing them via YouTube every Thursday night. And the RSC and other theaters as well have done similar things. So I've been really interested in watching some of those broadcasts, and especially watching, or doing my best to watch the audiences watching them. So seeing how different audience members are using YouTube comments and chats, or using Twitter or other forms of social media to try to be together, to be an audience, doing watch-alongs or watch parties, things like that, looking at the different ways that people make forms of community and togetherness, even when we're all physically distant. And the other thing that's been really interesting is that some theaters have also really quickly started to make new theater for online platforms, so kind of born digital theater. And it's a big shift for theater makers, because for a lot of people, the sort of essence of theater has always been being in the same room, the actor, the audience member, their embodied presence is shared. But in this new world that we're in, at least for the moment, different directors and actors have started experimenting with various platforms, especially Zoom, like the one that we're using right now, to just do readings of plays. I know different amateur dramatic groups that are getting together to do a reading on a Sunday night or something like that. But also there are some companies that are trying to mount slightly more full-scale productions, albeit in this sort of little box window way of different things. So I've seen quite a few of Shakespeare's comedies, The Tempest, Midsummer Night's Dream, and I'm interested to see where it goes over the next few months.
What inspired you to get into this area of research?
Let's see. I think probably a couple things. One was definitely the work that I do as a teacher and instructor. So at the Shakespeare Institute, we actually have a pretty well-developed distance learning program that's been going for over a decade now. And that sometimes surprises people, because they think, we're based in Stratford, and it in many ways kind of seems like this old-fashioned institution in lots of glorious ways. But people don't realize that we're also global, and that we do this kind of community of Shakespeare lovers that we try to cultivate is not just about doing it in Stratford, but reaching out to people around the world. So I'd already done quite a lot of teaching online, and working with people based in all of the different countries I've already mentioned and more. And I was becoming really interested in the ways that you can feel present with someone, even if you're not physically in the same room. And that maybe doesn't sound too weird to us now, that we've all been doing that and finding ways to do that in the last few months. But actually, I think as a culture, we've changed our thinking really quickly. And, 6 months ago or a year ago, people might feel quite different about whether meeting up with family over Zoom counted as meeting or not. We've been thinking about that in terms of teaching for quite a while. And I suppose the other thing, the bigger thing, is just that, I certainly feel, and I think many people feel, like the rise of digital technology, especially mobile computing, is the biggest change certainly that's happened in my lifetime, and I suspect the biggest change that will happen maybe, in the century. And I guess as well, I'm sort of an age where I definitely remember what it was like growing up without technology, and that fulcrum point where things started to become, inseparable from it. And I just wanted to spend a lot more time thinking about these tools that we use, thinking about the mobile phone, and all the different apps that come with it, and thinking about live video and streaming and things that have become really quickly pretty naturalized in our own lives. Think about the kinds of identity that they help people create, or that they impose on people. Also think about, again, the ways that it helps people be together, but also the ways that it can make the world seem very strangely connected and small, or take attention to certain places and away from others. So anyway, I just wanted to think about those big questions more, and Shakespeare is my area, and I thought it'd be interesting to look at it through that lens. I think the other thing with Shakespeare performance that uses technology is that sometimes it makes us see technology that's really normal in our own life a little bit differently. It kind of, we wouldn't think at all about using certain kinds of devices, certainly a phone or apps that come with them, or live streaming something. But when people see it in the context of a Shakespeare play, which they maybe have a fixed idea about it being very traditional, it can kind of make that technology strange and make people think about it a bit harder, about what it means to have someone's face live streamed on a screen so everyone can inspect it and look at it. So I like that aspect of the way that it defamiliarized kinds of technology that have become so normal and so banal even in our day-to-day lives.
And finally, do you have any advice on how I can shape my future at this stage of my university experience?
Yes. I'm thinking back to when I was at a similar stage in life as you. I mean, I think that I would say to what for me was so important, and I hope would be important for others, is to just really find the things that you love and to follow those and see where they take you. Because I certainly remember when I was going to university, not knowing exactly what I wanted to do, and everyone always asking me, "Oh, what are you going to do with that?" or "What happens next?" And feeling like, "Oh, I'm not really sure." But what I do know is that I really love reading and thinking about what I'm reading and thinking about the way that it connects with the world historically and also what's happening right now. And I know that's important, even though I don't know exactly how I'm going to monetize it or instrumentalize it. And I've been lucky in finding that stuff has kind of taken it, it's a work in progress, and kind of focusing on the moment and the things that I'm really passionate about and that stimulate my mind and my emotions, has allowed me then to find what I can do with it, because I'm so interested, to find out different possibilities for work or for meeting other people. I've met some of my best friends, my husband, through kind of following the stuff that I'm passionate about. So really doing that, and it can be anything. I mean, I'm not saying that everyone needs to be really passionate about Shakespeare or even literature, but I think if people know that there's something that they really like doing and that they're good at, even if it's not entirely certain how that leads to the next set of points in the timeline, my sense is that those things, they do take care of themselves, and focusing, living in the moment is really important. And to be honest, right now, I think all we can do really is live in the moment, because we don't know what's coming next. And I suppose the other piece of advice I'd give that maybe is even more pertinent for right now is to just learn to follow to what you love, and to be adaptable, and to find different ways to share what you love and to pursue it, and to be open to different opportunities and possibilities. And that adaptability has been really important for me, certainly in things like being open to the idea of teaching online, which when I first started out, people thought, oh, that's not a real way to teach or to learn. And I feel very much like that's not the case. And what I love doing on site in the classroom in Stratford is also what I love doing online. So I hope that you and anyone who might be watching this also feels like that they're empowered to follow what they love, and to be open to opportunities that let them express that in some sort of way.
Thank you so much for taking the time to talk to us today. It was really interesting to hear about your research area and the impact of COVID-19.
It's been really nice to talk to you too. Feels a little bit like we've been together even though we're apart.